Welcome to part 3 of our COVID-19 video series. In our previous episodes, we learned that COVID-19 is caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Now let's take a closer look at the disease process and clinical testing.
Welcome to LSBM Contagion Theater. Join me, if you will, for a play in 3 acts. The scene is the back of Nana's nose. We learned more about our villain, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, at the last installment of this video series. Our villain enters Nana's nose after a kiss from her infected grandson. Act 1. The virus silently replicates, creating an army of clones. Many of the clones are dispatched to the southern front, Nana's lungs, where the battle for her life will be staged. But our story remains on the northern front. Act 2 begins with our hero, Nana's immune system, detecting the viruses. Recognizing the threat, our hero mobilizes to produce antibodies. These heroic proteins bind to the virus particles and make it harder for them to infect more of Nana's cells. Offstage, Nana begins to feel ill. She begins to show symptoms of COVID-19. The battle rages on as Act 2 comes to a close. By Act 3, our hero is gaining the upper hand. The clones are dying, weighted down by antibodies, and are being cleared out of Nana's system. At her hospital bed, Nana is starting to feel better. Nana will survive COVID-19. She will live to stereotypically bake another pie.
The science of testing corresponds to the 3 stages of illness just described. Our 2 main testing methods are quantitative PCR or qPCR and antibody testing. qPCR specifically detects the RNA or genetic material of the virus itself in nasal secretions. Antibody tests detect the antibodies created through the immune response to the virus, usually through a blood sample. These tests offer different information and turn positive at different stages of illness. Stage 1 is called the incubation period and lasts from the initial exposure to the initial symptom presentation. The duration of this first phase varies from person to person. Half the population will show symptoms by day 5, over 95% by day 11, and virtually everyone by day 14. During this period, the body has not had time to make antibodies, so the antibody tests are negative, even though the person is infected. The most useful test during this stage is a qPCR test. However, initially there are not enough viruses in the nasal cavity for reliable detection. For most people, it will take about 3 days for the virus to reach detectable levels. Stage 2 represents the bulk of the illness. The qPCR will detect the presence of the virus throughout this phase. Antibodies, however, are not yet made at the beginning of this phase and may only turn positive during the 2nd week of symptomatic illness. Stage 3 represents recovery and is marked by a gradual decline in signs of illness. Antibodies should be present throughout this phase and persist past it, while the presence of the virus in the sputum and its detection through qPCR wanes. Toward the latter part of this stage, the virus becomes undetectable. Thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned for the next video in the series, How COVID-19 Spreads.